accepted, challenge accepted. The attitude is always challenge accepted. Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. The attitude is always challenge accepted.
Welcome back, welcome back. Please take your seats. And now our next slot is for two Bulgarian guys, part-time community builders and full-time IT gurus.
First up, we have Radoslav Georgiev, but maybe you know him better as RadoRado from Hack Bulgaria.
With nearly 15 years in the industry and co-founder of HackSoft, Rado is here to share his wisdom on staying focused and practical when building rapid prototypes.
Rado has been part of countless software projects, apps, and open source tools, including maintaining the Django Styleguide.
He has seen the good, the bad, and the overly complex, and today he's here to help you navigate it all effectively. Please give a warm welcome to Radoslav Georgiev!
That's a good way to be introduced. Hello, everyone. Slides, loading, everything's great, everyone's looking good. I am Radoslav Georgiev. I'm happy to see you, CEO of HackSoft, small software development company. We position ourselves as being your development partner beyond code. First of all, I want to give a very warm shout out to Pesho, and of course the rest of the organizers of those great events for giving me the opportunity to talk on this stage. So let's give a really good and warm round of applause for Pesho and the organizers. Woo! And of course, we will be singing Challenge Accepted. Challenge accepted. For the next week, for sure. So, goal of this talk. I want to do something that's practical, pragmatic, and provides value for you. And I want to make you think about things. That's the general idea. This is why I'm doing this. And of course, at HackSoft, we have been building software, various software products for various clients for the last 10 years, using various set of technologies. So the topic that I'm going to talk about, it's quite close to us, and we have quite a lot of hands-on experience with it. And of course, there are several different versions of this talk that I was planning to do. I was first thinking about doing a live demo because it's like the most exciting. Live demos are really exciting for the presenter and not as exciting for the audience. So I decided against that. Then I said, I'm going to do a fake live demo, and I'm just going to show you snippets of code. Same thing. And I woke up one morning, and I said, let's make a more general talk that will have some philosophical elements about software development, engineering, and craftsmanship in it. And so anyone here can take something for themselves. Now, what we are. Software engineers and software craftspeople. In Bulgarian, we have this really good word for it, zanayatchi, which I really love, but we are usually engineers and craftspeople. Yet, the heavy clouds of requirements usually are above us, and usually they're quite gray, and usually there's quite a lot of rain and thunderstorm. And I feel that in the last, let's say, 5 years, we have reduced ourselves to the standard line of thinking, which are requirements are pushed down, and then we start chipping away and working based on the requirements, and those requirements over there is like the big immutable cloud that we needed to start. Now, there are going to be some memes. I don't know what your experience is with talking to end users and end customers, but when someone comes and says, I need you to build me a software, it's quite naive to think that the people asking for it will know what they want, will have good requirements, and everything will be fine and dandy. Like this, we have been in this situation for many clients, and it's a funny meme. Now, I'm yet to see a project that has a clear idea and won't undergo changes in the requirements. Yet to see such project. And I have a fun anecdote. Last year, we had a new client that came with 30 pages of detailed specification of what they need and what they want to build. And they asked us to build it for them. And the client said something really, really specific. This is all there is. Trust me. And of course, we were press X to doubt. And during the first months, we were slightly diverging from this is all there is, trust me. And at the end of the second month, the initial spec was no longer usable. Yet, the work that they did before starting software development actually saved us a couple of months. And we then continue building the software that was actually needed, actually required, was solving a business case, was helping them make money. So even when somebody comes with a super detailed specification, rarely is the case that things will remain unchanged. Now, I believe that software engineering is a very repetitive and iterative process where we as engineers need to be engaged with what we are building and why we are building it all the time. This is my vision for software development. It's rarely, here is what we need, go build it, and that's all. And usually, when we talk about requirements, there's this thing called products, and there are folks who are product managers, product owners, product developers, product folks, that their main job is to push the product forward, being in some kind of intersection between business and engineering. And usually, we are quite used to looking at tools that move the product forward, like wireframes, screens, designs, requirements, documents and presentations of various kind. Of course, talking with potential users is a really good way to move the product forward. Yet, I think there is another really powerful tool that's missing from all of this. And we need to use all four, and there might be more, but we need to use all four in order to be properly engaged and properly building the right thing. And for me, this is building prototypes, proof of concepts, spike solutions. And this is just as powerful as the other tools that I listed. Because as software engineers and craftspeople, we can build something that's live, it's not up there in the air, and we can get proper feedback from it. Sometimes we need to get proper feedback from the wireframes and then build something and get proper feedback from actual users using actual software, getting actual feedback. And that's really powerful, and I think we are not using this as much as we need to. And in fact, the way that I look at this is the act of development forces the requirements to collapse. Because when we're doing wireframes and when we're writing documents, there are quite a lot of what-ifs. Here is a bit hand-wavy, how this is going to go as a process, and we are not very sure what we need to build here. The moment we start developing actual software with actual code, all those things, they need answers, because we cannot be hand-wavy in our code, because it won't compile at the end. And requirements tend to fold or fall in place, and this is how I look at things, and it's really powerful. And sometimes you need to build something in order to figure out what needs to be built, and this is a hard thing to sell to business and product people, but sometimes in order to figure out what we want and what we need to build something and then learn some new things around our product and continue forward. Now, this is the non-AI generated image of the spiral of iteration and an approach that we tend to take with new clients or existing clients that want to have something new built. We usually start with some kind of low fidelity wireframes, which can be like just a sketch or some boxes with some labels on top of it, and then we can build something. and then based on that, we can get a higher fidelity wireframes, and then we can build some more, and then we can get a higher fidelity until we get to the actual software, which is quite often the source of truth. I'm not sure if you have experienced the problem of what is the source of truth for the thing that we're building. It's a really interesting problem. Should we look at wireframes? They tend to fall behind once we start building. Should we look at documentation? Like documentation by definition is always behind. At least this is how I view it. Or what is the source of truth? And we as engineers usually are close, like the source of truth is closer to us because it's the code, it's what runs. And sometimes there are scenarios where what runs is not what the business wants, but the business doesn't really know what they want, so we need to figure it out. So it's effectively a journey towards a source of truth of what we are building and where we are heading. So I really love this process. And all of this, intro, I do have time, all of this is to share my experience and to encourage all of us to be more proactive software engineers and craftspeople, meaning talking about the product, giving ideas, building prototypes, because we are part of this entire process and we should not reduce ourselves to just give me requirements and don't bother me for the next 2 weeks. I think this is not working really well. It might be working in some cases, of course, but I think it's not working really well for all of us as an industry. And now, when we talk about building proof of concepts, another funny thing is we usually think we need to hack something together, which is correct. And when we think we need to hack something together that is disposable after this and we're just going to throw it away, we tend not to use our primary tools and strengths because we can use something new that's exciting and build it with something new and exciting. And why not? Because we're just going to throw it away. And I'm not throwing shade at Go. It's a great language. It's just something from my own experience. We are building a proof of concept. Why use Python and Django at all? Let's just use Go. Why not? And I think this may be a problem if we make this decision before answering why are we doing this specific particular proof of concept. And all the reasons listed here, and of course there are other reasons, are valid reasons. If our goal is to learn something new and transition towards a technology that's going to be used for years, then, well, the new things are going to be built with that technology because this is the best way to learn it. Yet, if our why is to push the product forward, perhaps it's best to stick to our strengths because otherwise we might get distracted by all the good and shiny new things that are exciting for us, just like live demo presentations, really exciting for me, not as exciting for you. And I'm sharing this as someone who's guilty of those distractions. Why not throw X in there because it's a cool new framework? Let's try it. And again, if we are to push the product forward via software engineering means, it might be better to stick to comfort. What is comfort for you might be different for what is comfort for me, and usually this is decided on a team level or at a company level. It is decided somewhere, and comfort can be something else. And if your comfort is not mentioned in my slides, this does not invalidate your comfort. It's just I have no experience with it, but it might as well work for you. So this is a very, very important disclaimer that I need to make. I'm not throwing shade at anything, and different people will have comfort with different things. My point of view is more of a backend developer who views things like, for example, React, Angular, and the rest of it like a rocket or a bomb that needs to be used for specific purposes, and we don't need to always fire it at every problem that we have, like a bigger bomb. Whew. And of course, a more cynical look on things, the best piece of software is the one that you don't have to build. It is indeed a cynical look on things, but sometimes if we can skip building something and push the product forward because we have created a proof of concept that helped us validate and understand some things, that's good. That's a good outcome. And there is this there is this term coined by Dan McKinley, which is called boring technology, which I highly recommend. Just Google boring technology and you will find it. I highly recommend you looking at the slides or a talk or talks about this. But the general idea is that every time we make a choice for a technology, there are benefits and costs attached to that choice. And it might be the case where we as engineers see more benefits than there are, and we don't see the cost down the road when we pick various technologies. And the argument here is, again, stick to comfort, and comfort here is called boring, which has a negative connotation, but here is used in a positive way. And of course, I don't want to throw shade on things. You can pretty much build everything with anything. And the running meme here is running Doom on something. For example, this is running Doom on figuring out how many potatoes do you need in order to run Doom. You can build almost anything with almost everything. And that's a good and a bad thing in itself. So how I think about this, it's time spent working on the framework versus time spent working on the proof of concept, which I want to build in order to push the product forward. It's important to remember the why. Because if I pick, for example, something new, then I will be spending quite a lot of time on the framework, building some kind of a foundation, making sure the migrations framework of this particular technology works well, setting up local environments, build environments, and so on and so forth. And I can not waste, but spend quite a lot of time working on the framework when I could just build something and push the product forward. And if we are to pick boring technology, we have a pretty good set of choices. That's the good thing, especially if we are coming from the backend world. Now, for example, for us at HackSoft, our comfort is Python and Django. It's great for pushing the product forward. We've built many prototypes and many products using just this, and it works. It's really boring, and it works, and it's quite mature. It's a really mature web framework with a lot of documentation, a lot of examples, a lot of third-party libraries. And the thing that it does, it reduces your time spent working on the framework. Somebody has already invested that time, and you have something that works, which is great. This is the contributions graph of Django. It started way back in 2006. So it is a mature framework. It isn't still a live framework, and it's continuously being developed by people all over the world. And that's a good thing. But you'll say, hey, but we're not using Python and Django. I have another meme for you. Of course, PHP is that, which is greatly over-exaggerated. For example, 15 years ago, I started my career with PHP, as I believe many of you have had the same experience. And at a certain point, there was this notion that PHP was not good and you should use something better because it's just not to your level to use PHP. 15 years later, to be honest, the skills that I had back then can still build software and I can still earn money with the skills that I have. And RadoRado, which is one of the most popular web frameworks for PHP, raised 57 million Series A, which I don't know what they're going to do with them. Yet it's better to have 57 million in the bank than not have it. So this is a boring framework with a boring language that still pushes forward, and you can get quite a lot of benefits from just using those set of technologies for building proof of concepts, for pushing the product forward. Again, RadoRado, at least on GitHub, started 2012, and it's still ongoing. This is per week, so they had some pretty crazy weeks in the beginning, which is always the case. Of course, Ruby on Rails. Anyone here using Ruby on Rails? Not the right audience? OK, great. still reigns supreme, and perhaps this is the origin of all the modern and boring, now boring web frameworks that we know. Again, 2006, development is ongoing, and it's like going pretty good for them. And if you are living in the Java world, Spring is everlasting, which was a nice use of words from me. Again, 2010. You know you're going to have a stable and mature framework if you pick Spring. You're not going to bump into, why is the database connection layer not working as expected and throwing random errors? You don't want to be debugging this if you are building something to push the product forward. And ASP.NET, I'm not sure about the C# ecosystem. I haven't used Windows for a while. 15 years. Not sure what's going on there, but I know this is also quite solid and stable, and it's been around from 2002. And Node.js as well. I don't have much experience there, but there are plenty of now mature frameworks that you can use. I have time. So, now, if we pick a boring technology and we want to build a proof of concept to push the product forward, what we're going to get out of the box is pretty much, not out of the box, but what we need to do now is figure out the data model. Usually the data model is at the core of what we're building. And usually the data model, the entities there, they have some actions between them. So we need to as well figure out the actions. That's why we are building the proof of concept in order to figure out additional or new data model and figure out how this additional or new data model interacts with our existing and interacts between itself. And actually shows something that people can click around and it's meaningful. So, I am one slide ahead of my slides when I'm talking. And usually, the data model is expressed via a relational database, which gives us a relational model. Like this is the standard thing that we usually use and usually do. And all of those boring frameworks, they have some kind of an ORM or some kind of a database wrapper, which is good at expressing the relational model. And on top of that, never underestimate a good migrations framework because it saves quite a lot of headaches. Whoever has debugged a bad migrations framework knows what I'm talking about. Now, sometimes our data model fits really well in the relational model and we are happy as engineers. Like those are the best times. And then our ORM models are our data model. Yet, that's not always the case. Sometimes we are building something and it doesn't fit really well in a neat relational model that's done by the book. And then implicitness steps in. And we can fall in the trap of asking the question, why do we want it like this? Not because we have something against it, but because it doesn't fit really well in our relational model. And then we need to do better, and we need to go beyond the relational model that we have and simply use plain old objects. And this is heavily, heavily underestimated. Sometimes we don't start with the relational model and then build on top of it. Sometimes we start with a few types, few functions that describe the actions between those types, and take it from there. And that's actually okay, and that's actually good. We don't have to fit in a relational model all the time. And plain old objects really, really shine here. And tools like TypeScript can actually help you with figuring out the models. For example, for me, Python has enough typing. It's not a statically typed language, but it has enough typing for me to build data model and the relations between entities. And the more complex typing that I call full TypeScript, where we go crazy with types, it's not as easy to use, which, at least for my experience, helps a lot. Whatever you use, I believe you have some kind of typing and plain objects set of tools that you can use. And this is a slide with Python code, because I need to have at least one slide with Python code, but it's not the focus of our presentation here. And this is the diagram. The code itself holds the truth about our data model. Sometimes this data model can be neatly mapped to our relational model, which is represented by our ORM, but sometimes it's not. And it's up to us in our code to figure this out and to make sure we are building the right thing. So don't fall for the trap. Doesn't fit in a relational model, not good. OK, Rado, you have 6 more minutes, but what about UI? And that's a good question. Check this working prototype and don't mind how it looks is a really hard sell to make to clients that are like non-technical. They judge the thing they are looking by the way it looks. Even if you have agreed that you're making a really rough prototype, just to figure out where we want to go next. So this is a problem. And of course, we can leverage the templating in our boring frameworks. There are things like Tailwind that make it was Bootstrap before, now it's like Tailwind. We can build a decently looking UI using Tailwind without much hassle and issue. And it's worth your time investment in this to just build a few pages with Tailwind to get a sense of what classes are being used and how things are structured. Yet, sometimes we need to go and use the full power, for example, of TypeScript and React. If that's the case, and if this is something that we are building, of course, we're going to go there. Yet, this is not the default case, at least not from my experience. And then you're going to say, OK, Rado, but I will use Tailwind, and I will style everything. And then the door opens, and multi-select enters in. And you're going to ask me, I have a multi-select, what should I use? And of course, if you are building something that's on the front end and you want to build a complex UI, you're going to be using the tools for this complex UI, and you're going to build a prototype for it using the proper tools. Yet, if we don't have the requirement or need for a complex UI yet, I would say 3 to 4 years ago, just use jQuery. jQuery is still... And you can even use the native browser APIs that support most of what jQuery has, but jQuery has quite a lot of examples, and you can use it. And if you want to try something new and exciting that will help you avoid adding additional technologies, for example, you're running with PHP and Laravel, and you don't want to add React and TypeScript at this moment, HTMX is something really, really powerful because it gives you a declarative way to say, when you click this button, send this request to the server, and when you get this response, populate this div here. It's really powerful, and it's really simple. And I also recommend you to check what HTMX can give you. Alpine.js is if you are allergic to jQuery, but if you're not, it's still good. And this is HTMX. It's been going on 4 years strong. There's quite a lot of controversy around it because the folks behind it tend to do quite a lot of, can I use some swear? Like, they do quite a lot of shit talking, but still the technology is really good. And if you are using Rails or Laravel, there are extremely powerful built-in frameworks on top of that, like Hotwire and Livewire, that rely on things like HTMX and Alpine.js, integrate straight into your boring templating language, and then you can build interactive apps that are actually looking good without adding additional technologies on top of everything. It's really, really powerful. Good. And of course, if you don't know what the alternatives for your framework of choice are, anyway, simply ask Google or your favorite large language model, whatever works for you. And to finish everything, the why is really important. Why are we spending time to build something? Is it to push the product forward? Well, then perhaps we should stick to comfort and stick to our strengths. Is it to learn something new? And that's a valid reason. Well, then we're going to use something new, and we're going to build something with something new. Or is it to potentially get a new perspective? This is also quite valid. We've been doing Python and Django for so long that perhaps we've lost perspective of other things. So the next thing we're going to build, because we want to get a new perspective, is we're going to use Next.js, because it's the hype. and we're going to deploy in Vercel, and we just want to get a new perspective, and that's a valid reason, but we've made that decision before we started building something. And this is, of course, the most important slide of my entire presentation. For us, Django turns out to be quite good, and you can continue building on top of it once you have the proof of concept. Of course, we use other things I mentioned, Next.js, only when we think it will improve the overall process. And that's all. Thank you for listening. 2 minutes left, but that's all for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rado. Thank you very much. If you want to speak with him in the speaker's corner, you can do that during the next break, the break after the next talk. Now, let's send him off of the stage with a big round of applause. Radoslav Georgiev!